Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the 18th German Child and Youth Welfare Congress, but the European part, the Europe at DJHT. My name is Ilias Yiannopoulos, and I'm together here with
Sarah Trochomowitz, that's me, and the two of us will be hosting this session. So over the course of the next 60 minutes, we're gonna explore together some of the big societal and political challenges and changes that we are experiencing right now. And we want to see what does it actually mean for youth work in Europe, like today and in the future.
Yes, so the title of this session is Shaping the Future, Youth Work in Times of Societal and Political Change. And this is exactly what we will be doing all together. But before we start, shall we do something that we call an energizer? Very, very fast together. We are both coming from the non-formal education. I'm pretty sure most of you as well. So, seated where you are, just raise your hand if you have traveled here by train or a bus.
Woo, quite some people. Me too. Okay, I have another one. So now raise your hand if you ever participated in a European youth event. Quite some people as well, really nice.
Okay, and now raise your hand if you have had an AI, artificial intelligence, write something for you the last year.
Yep,
Wow.
Guilty. Okay, and the final one is raise your hand if you believe that youth has the power to shape the future. Woo! Great.
Amazing. So, together with us, we're going to have many people, and for the opening, we're going to have some opening remarks. So, in the very beginning, for now, we want to welcome Mr. Manfred von Hiebel, the Deputy Head of Jugend für Europa, the National Agency of the European Union programs Erasmus Plus Youth, Erasmus Plus Sport, and the European Solidaritätskorps. An applause.
It's good to see you. I'm a bit afraid of what the AI will do to my speech. It's about the big picture, making democracy happen by participating. That's the very well-chosen motto, slogan of the 18th Youth and Welfare Congress in Germany. And we have been very lucky and happy that we could participate as national agencies with our colleagues to the development of this conference, but also to the development of the policy guiding paper that you might have read. And if you have read it, then you might have noticed how closely linked European questions, European issues, our subjects of the programs are connected also to the things that are really crucial for this Youth and Welfare Congress. I don't have to name them, but you know what we are talking about. And this is a great opportunity for us to bring these things together, not only from a national perspective, but also from a European and international one. And indeed, there's a lot at stake. Our democracy, our democratic systems, our open and liberal societies based on freedom and shared values are under attack by external and internal actors. On a daily basis, every morning, we see how fragile and vulnerable our societies are and how quickly we could lose this, what we think are our guiding principles of democracy and our values that we maybe have taken for granted for too long. In the political guidelines of the European Commission until 2029, it says, Europe's future in a fractured world will depend on having a strong democracy and on defending the values that give us the freedom and rights we cherish. Thus, the Child and Youth Welfare Congress highlights the crucial role youth work has in making democracy happen through participation of young people. And as you know, the programs, the European programs, but also other international youth mobility schemes, exchange schemes contribute very much to these challenges. They give an answer to these challenges. And we have recently seen the results of the midterm evaluation of the European Solidarity Corps. We're still waiting a bit for Erasmus+, but I think it goes as well for Erasmus+, of course. And some of the results quite struck me because they summarize very much what I think our work, our youth policy is about. So let me quote as well this. The program plays a key role in mitigating anti-EU and anti-democratic sentiments, thanks to its strong international network that extends from national authorities, the societal organizations, down to community and individuals. So it's really a broad picture that is contributing to the success of these programs and our work. Dear Jana Borkamp, dear Gabi Weitzmann, dear participants, dear colleagues, dear friends, a very warm welcome to Europe at DJHT, the European program of the German Youth and Welfare Congress. It makes us proud and grateful and happy to see exactly this strong international network, our community of youth policy and youth work here today. And it's really a nice picture. It's about the big picture, indeed, and a lot depends on our work in reaching out to young people, providing them with opportunities for exchange, intercultural learning beyond borders, and thus strengthening solidarity, support their engagement and participation, and making our societies and our democracy stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for the current situations, but also for the things to come. I hope we have prepared an exciting program to explore and develop youth policy and our youth work. Please use the opportunities to get to know each other, to reflect on what is going on out there, and not only in this fairground here, but also out there in the world. Think ahead on how we need to, but also how we want to change our work, how we can transform our work according to the needs, to also be able to provide this big difference that we make with our programs for the reality, for the lives of young people now and also in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. von Hebel. If you want to hear more from Mr. Manfred, you can come tomorrow, Wednesday at 9:15 in the morning on the session, How Can Young People Shape Democracy Through European Solidarity and Mobility? Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds super excited. I'm going to be there for sure. But now let's move on to our next opening remark. I'm really pleased and happy to invite Dr. Gabi Weitzmann on the stage, who is the Vice President of the AGJ, the German Child and Youth Welfare Association. Welcome.
Hello, everybody, and some of you I already met this morning, and I hope you had a good time so far, and we are very delighted to welcome all attendees to the European program of our Congress, especially our international guests, and we are very thankful that you bring diverse perspectives and enrich our discussions. Under the theme, Thinking Big, Making Democracy Happen by Participation, this Congress emphasizes the importance of democratic engagement and participation in shaping the future in child and youth welfare and in the whole society. As Manfred already said, there could be, I could say so much about this topic, but you will feel it during the next 3 days, as I hope. For me personally, I think we should really celebrate the European idea. What we've done in Europe in the last few years and in the last 50 years, for example, it plays a crucial role in promoting democratic values, human dignity, and the rule of law. Our collective efforts aim to counteract anti-democratic forces and foster inclusive societies. And as we face common challenges such as digital transformation, war, climate change, and political polarization, these developments particularly affect young people and everyone who supports and accompanies them through child and youth welfare services. I think it's very important that we are making cross-border dialogues and cooperation in the child and youth welfare system. Thus, it's so important that all of us support democracy and the European idea in what we do in our daily life. For the next 3 days, we look forward to a rich program of 32 European and international events, fostering dialogue, shared best practices, and strengthening networks across borders. We encourage all of you to engage actively, exchange ideas, and collaborate towards a more democratic and inclusive Europe. Your contributions are vital in advancing our shared goals. Last but not least, I want to thank Youth for Europe for the great cooperation and implementation of the Visitors Programme, and the city of Leipzig for the amazing hospitality and the support that emphasizes a great heart for the European idea. I wish you all a very impressive days with interesting lectures, panels, and people. Enjoy Leipzig and have a great time.
Thank you so much, Gabi. That was wonderful. We already have to say goodbye, but it was a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, yes, indeed. And finally, please welcome Ms. Jana Borkamp, the Head of Department for Children and Youth at the Federal Ministry for Education, Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Normally, my Secretary of State would be here today, but as you saw, we just got a new minister, and the Secretary of State will be announced tomorrow. So I have to fill the gap in between, and I'm very happy to be here today and to welcome you to the opening event of the European program Europe at DJHT. Dear Mr. von Hebel, dear Gabi Weitzman, no, she's already gone. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear guests from afar and close, it's now more than 10 years during this fair in 2014 in Berlin that we, for the first time, dedicated European program with the Marketplace Europe in this DJHT to the participants. And in the following years, the European and the international part of DJHT grew rapidly. And looking now in this room, I was a bit scared that after it has been full, there would be like 20 people, but now it's full. You're all here, and it shows the importance of European and international youth policies for the development of a national, regional, and local youth policies. And maybe it also shows your interest in what's happening in Germany, and I hope it will be very fruitful to exchange the views, the perspectives, the ideas, because all over Europe, young people face many different challenges in their lives, such as personal, educational, familiar, and societal changes. And not all of them, I would say most of them, cannot be tackled on national or regional level. Therefore, it's of huge importance to also implement youth policies on the European and international level. When we look to the internet, when we look to things that happen from climate change, artificial intelligence, education, you name it, there are many more that all over Europe, young people think about, are worried, want to discuss, want to bring in their perspectives. And That's why we're very happy that there is an EU youth strategy and the youth sector strategy for 2030 in the Council of Europe is, in our view, a very important multilateral policy document and strategy that we also rely on when we think about our own policies on a local and national level. Of course, some things have to be changed, have to be realized on the local level, but when we all start to invent the wheel new, as we say in German, I don't know what's the English expression for that, it takes a long time and maybe we err a lot, and therefore we think it's very important to exchange our ideas, to exchange best practice, to get new ideas and impulses and to copy them in our different local communities, and I think this is also a very important impact of the European exchange. And we hope that now in the next 3 days, we as Germany can give good insights in our child and youth welfare system, but we are also most happy if you contribute your expertise and your ideas. I would like to thank the German National Agency, Jugend für Europa, for organizing and supporting Europe at DJHT, the EU Youth Program Erasmus Plus Youth and the European Solidarity Corps. They have become an important pillar of European and international cooperation in Germany and other EU countries. And those programs offer significant contribution to support youth structures and also enable many youth organizations to realize projects and to build up capacities. In July, the European Commission will present their proposal for the next European program period starting in 2028. We, as the German federal government, have already published a position paper that both EU youth programs should be continued and further developed. The EU youth programs have also significantly contributed to the implementation of the European Youth Work Agenda and the youth work development in the EU countries in the past years. As the 4th European Youth Work Convention will start next week in Malta, it's of great importance to discuss this topic in today's kick-off event, and I look forward to the following exchange. But now, I wish all of you good impressions, interesting discussions, and many new insights that you can take home. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jana Borgkamp. And we're also lucky you're going to stay a bit with us for the panel discussion later on. Thank you. Okay. But for now, it's time to hear from someone who's been looking closely at what the future holds for youth work. So we're going to listen to some key insights from a recent study on the futures of youth work and exploring some major changes like digitalization, migration, climate change, social polarization, and all of those, how they are shaping our field, and also to see how we can respond to that. For this, I'm really happy to welcome Professor Dr. Özge Hansen-Yuva, who is a professor at the Middle East Technical University in Turkey and also a researcher of the European Academy on Youth Work. Welcome. The stage is yours.
Forward. Okay. Thank you. Well, it's full. We are always curious about the future. People have been trying to see what is coming since the older times. There are the habits, different cultures. In my culture, we look at the coffee, what is left from coffee. In some cultures, they look at the tea leaves. In some cultures, they were looking at the stars. But there has always been a fascination trying to see what is coming in order to prepare. I checked my horoscope this morning to see, and this is what it said. It said, be ready for a day by yourself, away from crowded places, to listen to your voice and think. And, well, okay. So this is going to be a challenge because I'm not by myself. I know this is impressive, and I have only 10 minutes to present the findings of a 3-year research where we were a team of people working. So what I did was, this was done for the European Academy on Youth Work, which some of you have participated in different editions. And if not, we strongly recommend you to follow it. It will happen next year, and you to participate. And if you want to know more about the research, there is the code. So I also teach in the university. I come from youth work, but I have this new habit of please read the papers, and you can download the page, all the research there. But it was a team. And we were working with, she's soon going to be a PhD, with Alexandra Shimczyk. It took me 3 years to learn how to pronounce her last name. She pronounced mine the next day. But this was the motto I had in the beginning. She is one of my favorite poets. She won the Nobel Prize. And when I read this poem, I was thinking about our research, because the moment you say future, the first pronoun, the first syllabus belongs to the past. So future constantly happens. Future is constantly happening now. So it's not a very clear now and future and past. It is all mixed. So our starting point with all this issue was not about prediction only, but try to prepare to possible futures. That's why the research is called Futures, because we realize there is not one future that you can see, but there are different futures in different places, but also different futures for young people to build, to work for, or try to change. So it's about purpose, it's about creativity and agency. We are not passive recipients of future, but we are the actors of future to shape. And that was the mentality to work. The methodology was rather complex. I'm not going to go over details of it, but what we did was using signal spotting. So it was not like the oracles of Delphi, that some group of experts who know everything sit together and tell young people and youth workers how their future will be. On the contrary, we use signal spotters, which are pretty much people like yourselves, telling us trends, changes, some news they hear, something happening in their organization, and what the experts did was to put them together. Just to give you an idea, this was a signal that somebody was in a flea market and they realized that they can't fix things anymore, and they shared it with us. Or another signal I just wanted you to see was a legislation, and they sent us, this is what is happening on the degrowth agenda. So our signals were very, very complicated. And what we did was to put them together to create trends and scenarios to reflect the collective intelligence of the youth work field. So I repeat, it's not 4 or 5 experts sitting and writing it, but it was the youth work community working on it. And we worked with horizons, 3 horizons. Horizon 1 is what is right in front of you. ChatGPT, that's horizon 1, it's already here. And we worked with horizon 2, which is coming. We can see it is coming, but we can't really tell the details. But what was most interesting was to work on horizon 3, and this is a very good way of thinking, which is unimaginable. So AI and ChatGPT was horizon 3 30 years ago. It was considered science fiction, but it's affecting our life from education to flirting nowadays. I say flirting because one of the signals was when they go on a date, they are cheating with ChatGPT, saying, he's cute, but he keeps talking about work. How do I get to know him better? This was a real signal, by the way. And then we did resonance workshops, and we asked people again and again, do they make sense? How do we work on that? And it was a huge issue. 3 points were cross-cutting: values and ethics, technology, and climate and environment. Whatever you do, wherever you work, with who do you work, doesn't matter. In the future, you have to constantly think about these 3 themes: values and ethics, technology, and climate and environment. For climate, these were the questions, technology, these are the questions we would like to throw at you in your everyday work, because it is changing how we behave, how we think, and how we operate. We were joking last night about when you travel, how you needed to go to an internet cafe and pay for 15 minutes. I can see half of the room in tears, nostalgic, and I can see half of the room thinking, what is an internet cafe? So technology keeps changing how we work and how we operate, how we even design learning environments. Even a signal from Hungary was telling us that the school design now is a way where the plug is closest. It's not about seeing the blackboard, but it's having plugs for laptops and iPads. And in one youth exchange, somebody said, my electronic pen is out of battery, and I didn't know what to say. This is not something I know what to do, because if somebody says, I don't have a pen, I say, borrow your friend. But if somebody says, my pen is out of battery, I really don't know what to do, by the way. If anybody knows, please give me a course later on. Ethics, climate, and environment is there, and it's a cross-cutting theme. It will affect how we work, it will affect who we work with, and what we do with them. Climate refugees, climate trauma, these are all issues that keep appearing once again and again, and are we prepared for it? And ethics, these are affecting us, the values, this AI ethics, what is ethical, what is not, everyday ethics. So we are not speaking and talking enough about the ethics and values of youth work, which is going to be a big issue in the future. Now, I know you're curious about scenarios, and I know you're expecting me to give you direct information that you go back home and say, do you know this will happen? I'm sorry, I will not do that because I have only 10 minutes, but these are the trends and scenarios we developed. They are in the report, but I have chosen 2 for you to take around on social media or whatever you want to do with it. One on demographic change. This is the future youth work. No, seriously, because we have to work intergenerational, and we have to transform into community work. Demographics say that, politics say that. We can't have the money, the budget in Western Europe anymore to have youth work for young people only. The demography is getting older. There are more older voters. They will decide on the budgets. It is already happening in many countries that a youth center is considered a luxury. So we all have to operate like the German Federal Ministry of, what's the name again? Education, family, social work, women, children, and everything under the sky. They are prepared. So in your youth work trainings, we have to include how to work with old and young people together. When you're making an energizer, it has to be intergenerational. So that's one scenario, for instance, that you can find in the report. Digital nomadism is the second example I have. People don't travel just to make photos and get a tan anymore. They travel with their laptop. Several countries are passing legislation for this kind of people traveling. You will see next time you're on holiday, people sunbathing and surfing, and some people are coding, programming, or doing Zoom wherever they are. But this breaking of time and space is there. As I said, we have a lot of scenarios. I will just show them to you, and they are all in the QR code. But I want to finish with, and mental health is super important. It's something we have to develop the competences. It is there. It is part of everyday work. It will become the new normal. It will be okay not to be okay already. But I want to finish with what to take away from this research. recognize the changing mindset of youth work. We are witnessing a generational shift. Future will be radically different than today, and accepting this shift and adapting is how we start. From a culture of hope, we are switching to a culture of anxiety and risk. The young people today are rather different than 20 years ago. And in order to embrace this, the second takeaway we have to share with you is future literacy. Our research showed that youth work doesn't have enough time, enough energy, enough motivation to talk about future and to plan for the future. This is not about prediction, but it's about imagination and agency. We have to teach ourselves how to read the future and change. And in order to do that, we need to talk about future. Do we have structured spaces to converse, to plan, to discuss about future? Do you do it in your organization? Do you do it at national level, where youth workers, researchers, policymakers come together and create, imagine, doubt, question, what is coming? Do we like it or do we fight it? But this is absolutely necessary. And we have seen a lot of appraisal of individual efforts. One young worker, youth worker, adopted technology to do something. Wonderful. But such individual remedies is not the way to go forward. We need community of youth work, child work, education, to work together to create an ecosystem, because the pressure to adapt and to change is very, very high on youth workers. They have to learn something new every day to keep up with their audiences. This was not the case in the past. And finally, we have to be careful about transitioning from adoption to transformation. It's about timing. Everything I said, strategy, conversation, ecosystem, because when there is a time that it's not enough to adopt, we will have to transform. We all talk about learning, learning, learning. Are we ready to unlearn? That was the question. Are we ready to unlearn what we think is the best way of doing things? And our research said we are not. We think what we're doing is good, we just fix it here, put a band-aid here. But the times are changing. We have to keep the dialogue open. We acknowledge that our research is not a conclusion, but it is a starting point. We have to stay open, but we have to stay critical and evolving. I repeat, we are not passive recipients of the future. We must act as active actors and shapers of the future. If we don't like what is coming, do we know how to fight it? And if we like it, do we know how to make it faster and better? So these are questions for us to discuss next 3 days. And I wish a happy now, which was future when I started this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Professor Dr. Özge Han is going to be joining us for the panel discussion. What stayed with me, one of the things that stayed with me of what you said is that we are the actors of the future indeed. And with this, I want to invite up here in the panel Jessi Jonsdottir from the Advisory Council on Youth of the Council of Europe. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. And to make our panel complete, I'm also really happy to invite Ines Lampe from the city of Braunschweig, from the Department of Children, Youth and Family. Welcome, Ines. What a wonderful picture. It's so great to have all of you here. Welcome.
Thank you very much all again for being here with us. I want to start with a question towards Jessi. From your perspective, how do the transformations mentioned in the keynote affect the life of young people, especially of young people?
Thank you, Elias, and thank you also for a very interesting keynote. So, first of all, I think this is such an important question. And before stepping into my role with the Advisory Council on Youth, I enjoyed 7 years as a youth worker in youth centers in Iceland myself, while now I spend my days as a mechanical engineer in Iceland as well. But in my experience, these transformations mentioned are issues that young people tend to bring up when given the chance, definitely, if they put it on the agenda. And these transformations that I'm going to discuss and connect with youth are the following. So it's digitalization, migration, climate change, and then lastly, social and political polarization. So starting with digitalization, young people are both empowered and vulnerable in the digital age. On one hand, they benefit from access to information, global networks, and learning opportunities. But on the other hand, they are at risk of exposure to misinformation. AI is rapidly changing the landscape every day. Personalized learning is a clear benefit, but it also raises concern around inequality, misinformation, and privacy. If we want AI to equitably serve young people, we need to build capacity within the youth sector and understand its needs and advocate for policies that safeguard youth rights in the digital age. And then secondly, on migration, young migrants face unique barriers in education, social inclusion, and employment, but they also bring diversity and resilience to communities. These different visions and voices are powerful assets, but for that potential to fully bloom, it needs support and structure, which is where youth work plays a crucial role. And then we have the case of the climate change. And this, I think, is for sure a defining issue for today's youth, who are increasingly leading the climate action, but often lack the political power to implement the actual changes then. Putting it into tangible context, the Council of Europe adopted a recommendation last year on young people and climate action, and that underscored the necessity of integrating youth perspectives into climate action, ensuring that policies are inclusive, equitable, and responsive to the unique challenges faced by young people in the world. And now lastly, on the social and political polarization. Polarization, of course, undermines democratic dialogues and makes it harder for young voices to be respected and to be heard. And youth work can bridge different opinions by fostering inclusive dialogues and mutual understandings. So all in all, these transformations are definitely real, and youth are living them every single day. And I think our role in general as youth workers or other people here, other stakeholders, is to make sure that they don't just live through them, but actually shape them, which was all about what the keynote was about. So yeah, that's my answer on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessie. From this, I would like to move to the local level, and with this also give a little challenge to our AI, because I'm going to switch language. Ich mache jetzt auch mal auf Deutsch weiter, und zwar Ines, ich schaue dich gerade mal an. Du arbeitest auf der lokalen Ebene in Braunschweig. Von dem, was wir gerade gehört haben, diese Veränderung und das, wie würdest du sagen, spürst du das ganz konkret in deiner Arbeit auf der lokalen Ebene mit Blick auf jetzt, aber auch auf die Zukunft? Just quick, I was asking about how those like transformation processes are like playing out at the local level and impacting youth work at this level.
Ja, vielen Dank für die Einladung zunächst. Ja, in der Kommune sind wir, würde ich sagen, am nächsten dran an den jungen Menschen. Und es gibt einfach nicht die jungen Menschen, sondern es gibt ganz viele verschiedene junge Menschen. Wir haben junge Menschen, die sich ein bisschen verloren fühlen. Wir haben junge Menschen, die sehr, sehr aktiv sind. Ich nehme Verunsicherung wahr bei jungen Menschen in der gesamten Gesellschaft. Verunsicherung wegen Klimawechsel, Verunsicherung aufgrund auch der politischen Polarisierung, die wir gerade überall im Land und überall auf der Welt auch spüren. Gerade im benachteiligten Bereich auch Ohnmächtigkeit und Machtlosigkeit auf der einen Seite, auf der anderen Seite aber auch einen ganz, ganz, ganz großen Willen von jungen Menschen, was zu verändern. von jungen Menschen, sich auch aktiv auf die Straße zu begeben, von jungen Menschen, die mitgestalten wollen, die kreativ sind. Wir haben in Braunschweig vor nicht allzu langer Zeit ein Jugendparlament demokratisch gewählt. Übrigens, wir haben gestern über Jugendparlamente gesprochen, die einfach nur so mal bestimmt worden sind. Unseres ist gewählt. Und diese Menschen bemühen sich gerade sehr, alle möglichen Jugendlichen auch zu beteiligen und mit den jungen Menschen der Stadt auch Veränderungen herbeizuführen. Die Übersetzung scheint ganz lustig zu sein, vermutlich, nehme ich an, wenn ich das so höre. Also so rum scheint es nicht so gut zu klappen.
I can summarize a bit what you said because it's really, really interesting to hear. So we were just talking about how there are a lot of challenges. Like, of course, we are facing, you mentioned correctly, youth is not just one homogeneous group. There are like so many different aspects we have to consider and take into account. So we are seeing those challenges playing out. But at the same time, you also said that you observe a lot of like willingness and like power and energy to actually create change. You mentioned the youth parliament that was just elected. So we are seeing both. There are like those challenges, but also like really quite some like signals, as Eske would say, of hope. Great, thank you.
Vielleicht ganz kurz noch mit Blick auf die Zukunft. Mit Blick auf die Zukunft, glaube ich, ist es unsere aller Aufgabe, noch niedrigschwelliger zu werden, noch unbürokratischer zu werden, noch einfacher zu werden, damit wir viele junge Menschen auch erreichen. Wir haben in Braunschweig seit einiger Zeit ein Jugendbüro, in dem wir ganz, ganz viele verschiedene Veranstaltungen fahren, große Veranstaltungen, kleine Talkrunden, Gespräche mit Politik, Gespräche zwischen Jugend und Verwaltung. Auch da können wir noch viel besser werden und noch viel, viel mehr junge Menschen auch in das Haus bringen. Und das ist das, auf den Weg haben wir uns gerade gemacht. Und das ist das, was wir uns als Team der Jugendförderung in Braunschweig auch vorgenommen haben, möglichst viele junge Menschen zu erreichen, ihnen Mut zu machen, die sollen Selbstwirksamkeit spüren und Lust haben mitzumachen, weil nur so, glaube ich, haben wir eine Chance, gegen die politische Polarisierung auch gegenzuwirken und für Demokratie im Land zu sorgen und damit auch in ganz Europa und auch in der ganzen Welt.
Great. And I just saw I said something about black coffee and what have you. So that is definitely not what you just said. We were talking about that there was this strong urge also from her team to overcome bureaucratic hurdles, to make participation easier, to really have this mutual connection between the municipality and youngsters, and to even foster this connection and overcome those bureaucratic things that we all know too well, to make it just easier to actually get together and talk and like shape something. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and connecting it. Yes. Connecting it to what Ines, Miss Lampe said, Jessie, how can or does youth work support young people in navigating those changes and in making their voices heard?
Thank you, and thank you for the summary, Sarah, for what Ines was saying, because the translation is a little bit funny. Okay, so thanks again for that question. Well, firstly, I think that youth work is undeniably a cornerstone in this process in general. It amplifies the voices of young people across Europe and creates also spaces for meaningful youth participation and engagement. It nurtures critical thinking, to begin with, teaches advocacy skills, and builds the confidence that is necessary for young people to participate actively in society and to shape their own future, for example, bringing back to the keynote. But youth work also facilitates crucial conversation, helping young people with diverse perspectives to navigate their differences and coexist then in the communities. It is vital to prevent echo chambers and promote inclusive dialogue. And to achieve this, diversifying youth activities and creating inclusive spaces with non-formal education are concrete ways to combat polarization. As an example, youth centers and youth clubs often serve as the heart of these efforts, both providing safe and accessible spaces where young people can connect, collaborate, and also to grow. And youth work guides these conversations then in general, building stronger communities where young people can respect each other and celebrate their differences instead of fearing them. So this is very dear to my heart. But none of this, of course, happens out of nothing, and I'm not telling anybody news, but funding is crucial. It shows commitment, and it also ensures that initiatives not only exist sporadically, but thrive consistently. So across Europe, youth work potential is oftentimes untapped, and its capacity is limited because people do this often on voluntary basis. So we need to recognize and sustain the support for youth work to unlock its full potential. Equally important is the protection of youth spaces, especially now when civic spaces for young people is shrinking in too many corners of Europe. And finally, I want to emphasize empowerment, and not in this context as a buzzword at all, but as a real call for action. So young people must not only have a seat at the table, they must have the power in decision-making processes. And a powerful example of this is the Council of Europe's co-management system, basically, for the youth sector there. I'm a member of the Advisory Council, and then you also have the CDHA, which is the ministerial representatives. And this is a model that recognizes young people as equal partners in shaping youth policy, because a youthless policy is useless policy, and we need future-proof policy making. So, putting this a little bit into context, lastly, I want to mention the upcoming 4th European Youth Work Convention that was already mentioned here before, taking place now in Malta very soon. And this output there, the output from that will be a roadmap towards a European strategy for youth work policy development, implementation, recognition, and quality practices. Very important. And it doesn't even stop there, because then in October, European ministers responsible for youth will gather again in Malta to transform this discussion into concrete actions. So this will then ensure that youth work remains a pillar of strong and resilient European democracy, actually. And this sequence shows in my mind that youth work is not just valued, it's becoming deeply institutionalized. Yeah, so that's my take.
Thank you, Jessie. A message for celebration and recognition of youth work. Thank you very much. Manfred, going more to the European Union programs side, from your perspective as the national agency, how do European programs such as the Erasmus Plus and the ESC, the European Solidaritätskorps, support youth workers and young people deal with the big political changes we're facing today?
Thank you very much. Yeah, as I said before, I think we have, or let's say, we seem to have quite successful programs in this regard. So we have a very promising evaluation of at least so far, the European Solidaritätskorps. We are waiting for the evaluation of Erasmus Plus. But in addition to that, we also have our own research, Ray research, and we will also learn more about that, the outcomes of the programs. And that in this regard is very promising, of course. So we have programs that maybe not so much in Germany, because we have quite a strong infrastructure, and that's what you also see here, how youth work is represented here in this country. But we have many countries where the European youth programs, the whole set of the programs that we have are a very strong, maybe the only pillar of youth work. And this is something that is really makes a difference also for the people that benefit from the programs, but also, as Ines said, from the local communities, because every program that is carried out in the framework of the program has its impact, and has its impact on the individuals that are involved, on the organizations, on the local communities, and beyond. So that is something that is really, I think it's not, at this stage, it's unimaginable that this program would not be there anymore. And I'm not saying that it's somehow at stake, but this is when you compare it to what we have with this program to what we might not have if it wouldn't be there, then it's quite significant what it means to have these opportunities with the both programs. And I think the influence, of course, also with the budgetary development that we have seen with Erasmus during the last years, has made really a change also in reaching out with the programs and changing things also on a systemic level. I mean, everything is everything is still to be further developed. But I think what we see how, for instance, the program priority inclusion and diversity really changed a lot of things that were not possible in previous program generations. And I'm not saying that we're perfect in this, but only looking at the numbers and looking at the diversity of organizations, of people we're reaching out to. That is quite impressive, and that is something where we think this is something that we really have to maintain. We really have to carry on that also for the next generation of the programs. But at the same time, we see also the challenges, and it's completely right, and I couldn't agree more to what Özgen said in this regard. We have to anticipate, we have to imagine how the future and the challenges for young people will be like, and how we can respond with the programs also to these challenges. It will be more difficult. It will be also a stronger struggle for budgets, because we have there are so many challenges and so many requirements also how to distribute European monies facing the global situation, but also the situation within the European Union, that it might not be easy. But I think it is connected. It's very much necessary to connect the power and the opportunities that we have with youth work also even more closer to societal changes that we have. And you might have heard about that the Commission, the European Union, is talking a lot about preparedness for the future. And this preparedness concept is very much, well, when you look at it, it's about being prepared for military challenges and challenges coming from outside. But it's also highlighting very much the role of participation in democratic societies to make democracy more resilient. And there, I'm very happy to see that the programs play a role in this, that they have really a meaning in this. So, and this that gives me some hope that we will be able to maintain like that, make it even stronger, maybe, but also, as Özge said, we have to transform our answers working with this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so interesting to also put it in this connection with the European perspective and the program level. And Ines, I would like to circle back to you. Since you're also working in connection with the European programs, you're part of the Europe Groups Global. And while I'll circle back, let's also have some more fun with AI. I'm going to switch to German again. Mit Blick auf die europäischen Initiativen verbunden mit der Jugendarbeit bei euch vor Ort. Wie hilft euch da die europäische Zusammenarbeit um lokale Gemeinschaften und Jugendarbeit vor Ort, um dort Veränderungen mitzugestalten? The question was about the connection to the European program.
Also auf der einen Seite ist das ein großes Netzwerk, und das hilft uns auf der lokalen Ebene natürlich sehr, und wir haben es alle am eigenen Leib gespürt. In Braunschweig sind Jugendbegegnungen weggefallen, wir fahren nicht mehr nach Russland, wir fahren nicht mehr nach Israel. Wir mussten uns neu denken, neu erfinden, neue Wege gehen. Uns war es wichtig, auch nochmal den Fokus zu setzen auf junge Menschen, die nicht in die Chance kommen, auch von Elternhäusern nicht in die Chance kommen, ins Ausland zu reisen und Dinge zu tun. Seit 2 Jahren fahren wir sehr erfolgreich das Discovery EU Inclusion Programm. Wir sind gerade zurückgekommen aus Spanien, angeleitet von einer jungen FSJlerin, und es ist wirklich schön zu sehen, wie junge Menschen, die noch nie im Ausland waren, bei uns im Jugendbüro sitzen, in einem Raum sitzen, mit 10 jungen Menschen überlegen, wie mache ich ein Bahnticket, wie buche ich Unterkünfte, oh, die Unterkunft ist vielleicht zu teuer, dann kann ich mir keine Aktivitäten mehr leisten, und am Ende komplett selber und selbstständig eine Reise geplant haben, die durchgeführt haben und auch nach 10 Tagen glücklich und wirklich selbstwirksam zurückkommen und sagen, ja, das habe ich gemacht, das ist mir gelungen und ich habe das gemacht und ich weiß, ich kann das jetzt und es geht. Das Gleiche fahren wir gerade vermehrt mit Jugendbegegnungen. Wir sind akkreditiert seit ein paar Monaten und sehr glücklich darüber, weil uns das bürokratisch echt erleichtert, muss ich sagen. Und wir fahren vermehrt mit Jugendzentren und auch dort mit jungen Leuten, die wenig mit Menschen aus dem Ausland bis jetzt in Berührung gekommen sind. Wir haben junge Menschen dabei, die waren noch nicht aus Braunschweig raus. Die haben die Stadtgrenze Braunschweig zum Teil nicht verlassen und sie lernen Menschen aus anderen Kulturen kennen, sie lernen Menschen aus anderen Ländern kennen, sie lernen kennen, dass diese jungen Leute die gleichen Probleme haben wie sie, dass sie gleich denken und gleich ticken. Gegebenenfalls bilden sie Freundschaften fürs Leben und ich glaube, das ist der Weg, auf dem wir es schaffen, junge Leute zu unterstützen, auch Demokratie zu leben, weltoffen zu sein, Selbstwirksamkeit zu erleben und auch das kann einfach nur der Weg sein, die politische Polarisierung ein bisschen zu vermeiden und jungen Leuten zu zeigen, die Welt ist offen, Europa steht ihnen hoffentlich noch eine Weile offen. Wir wissen alle, was im Moment in der Welt so los ist, aber es ist, glaube ich, schon unsere Aufgabe, junge Leute zu unterstützen und zu mobilisieren, dass sie gerne in die Welt gehen und auch die sich das nicht zutrauen, zu mobilisieren und dass sie das auch tun. Und dafür helfen uns die europäischen Netzwerke, die wir auch im guten Kontakt mit Jugend für Europa und all den Programmen, die es da gibt, immer wieder neu erfahren und auch für uns lernen können.
Thank you. Let me also put that in some different words than I would put it. You were talking about how European programs are really helping you to create those opportunities and programs for young people to really get out of their bubble a bit. Like you mentioned, some youngsters that never have left Braunschweig before and then got the chance to connect with people from all over Europe and see those similarities as young people all over in Europe, but also challenges they are facing. You were also talking a lot about all those kind of geopolitical changes and challenges we are observing at the moment, how this is impacting your work and of course the experience young people are having. So it's really interesting to see also this really local connection, how it's happening on the ground with you. But let's move now a bit again to the policy level to see what else we have there. One other part also of the youth work, of course, and what we are doing here are big events. And we already heard it, Professor Oskehan, you also mentioned it. There's this big convention coming up. And Ms. Jana Borkamp, you from the Federal Ministry for Education, Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth. You also hosted the third European Youth Work Convention in 2022 back then. And I would like to hear from you, or I guess many other people as well, would be really interesting to hear also how those events, like the convention, maybe can also help us to guide future direction of youth work in Europe.
Yeah, with pleasure. For us, the participation of young people is vital for shaping youth policies, and I would say not only youth policies. When I have been in Spain on the last EU conference, which was at the same time with the DG conference, we learned that the most important things are housing, transport, and education. Now education is becoming part of our ministry, but we're not responsible for housing, we're not responsible for transportation, but they are very important for the lives of young people. So for us, the main issue is, and I think those events are also crucial for mainstreaming youth policies, for letting other politicians from other policy fields hear the perspective of youth, because we heard, and I think it's also in Germany an important not problem, but maybe issue, the demographic change. Most voters are above 55 in Germany, so they are very strong in deciding on policies, and for giving young people a voice, especially when they cannot even vote, and for giving their perspective to politicians and deciders, not just in the youth policy field, not just in part of exchange or the youth club in the neighborhood, but also to all the other things that are important in their life. Those events are vital, we think, and we also have something like this on a national level, and we see it changes things and it changes the perspectives, because then not only the, I don't know, transportation lobby organization is speaking to the minister, but young people, and they talk about their lives and they talk about the effects his or her policy has on their lives. And we learned that it's a long process also to convince politicians from other fields that they don't just do health policy, but health policy for young people, and that it's not the job of the youth politicians to cover all those fields. And so we hope that also the coming convention will make its contribution to this experience and to mainstream youth policies, and really to put youth on the agenda, and not only to the youth politicians, but to all politicians and to all decision makers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Borkamp. And now digging a bit deeper into policy, and now that we are also coming closer to an end, Professor Dr. Özgehan, let's circle back to the title of the event, which is Shaping the Future, Youth Work in Times of Societal and Political Change. With everything you heard so far in the whole panel discussion, what would be a couple of recommendations or just last thoughts you would like to share with the panelists and with the audience?
I'm still getting used to hearing my titles, because some of you know me, but I come from youth work. I was a volunteer, I was a work camp leader, I was a trainer, and then I became a professor, and my participation became shorter and shorter. I used to be a participant sitting there. Now I'm giving 10 minutes and they are sending me home. So enjoy when you are there, because time is getting short. And no, but it's important what you're asking. And with everything being said, one, I have 2 points to share and also to throw to you. One is, just like Jana was saying, what is framed as youth problems is not problems created by young people, but they are the ones suffering most. Unemployment, youth unemployment is not a youth problem, it's the society's economic problem, which is unable to create decent jobs for young people to build their lives. But it is always framed as if it is a youth problem, and the youth sector is expected to come up with solutions. They are putting pressure on youth organizations, saying, make your young people more employable, make them give them more trainings. But it should be the other way around, that the society should put pressure on the economic actors to be able to create more decent, dignified jobs. I underline decent, dignified jobs, because working unpaid internship is not dignified. There's nothing decent about it. Housing, they say, oh, there are these campaigns going around saying study in the city where you grow up, because we don't have proper affordable student housing for you in big cities. How is this young people's problems? This is the society problem. And on the other hand, you have an aging population, extremely strained in mental well-being, living alone, relying on social services to help them to do activities in centers of the cities. And young police people, young teachers, young nurses cannot afford to live in city centers with their salaries, so we are seeing collapse of big cities. And how is this young people's problem? These are societal problems where the society and politicians should try to find solutions together. That brings the second point I want to raise, is change is happening, and historically the policy and institutions are slow to react to these changes. All the future scenarios we're talking about, think about education. How education has always been lagging behind the society to adapt what's happening. It took years for internet and information communication technologies to enter properly to education system. They were very late. Go back, gender equality, it entered the school systems after it was very dominant in society. So formal education is very slow in reacting to this change, and the gap between society and education That's one thing I'm giving example, because I'm working in a university, a very formal education system, is growing. The gap, the life of young people and the structures of institutions, it's separating. And I think it is very important role for youth work to bridge this gap, where young people feel not heard in institutions, are feeling that everything is outdated. When they are online and digital, their teachers and professors are repeating what was done in ancient Greece. Look at me, listen to me 1 hour, don't look at your phone. They are looking for places where they can explore and learn. So I think youth work's role in these change of times is becoming even more crucial, because I think you are the only ones who can bridge this gap, which is widening every day. So good luck. That would be my last word.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was really, really interesting to hear. And as sad it is that we have to end this discussion here now, it is just the start of something that we're going to expect more from in the next days. So we are super exciting to close this session, but to open up the European part of the DJHT. So in the next days, there are about 30 events as part of this European part, which you are very welcome to check out. Further, you can go to the European marketplace on the fair, where you also will find more contributions, and we are also warmly inviting you to check out the Café Europe in the Glashalle. Okay. With this one, we are coming to an end. We need you to sit for one more second, because we have something fun coming up.
We want to take a selfie with all of you. So, contributors, please turn on this side. And you, if you can give us your best wave, smile, the energy you have, maybe get a bit more compact so we can take it all together.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Many of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a
Enjoy
wonderful
the day.
day.